say a word to you, brother. You're a friend of this university, not just a founder, but a friend and a friend of the School of Divinity. We welcome you to this important culminating event for our graduates, and we're honored that you're able to join us for a few minutes. I hope, as Dean of this school, that you will see these graduates as a down payment on the vision that you have for this school. Please join me in welcoming Pat Robertson, founder, chancellor, and president of Regent University.
What a joy to meet all these marvelous graduates. God bless you and all the family, the spouses. It's an important moment in your lives. I thought I'm bringing you a greeting, but I might give you a little personal testimony. You know, I went through one of these things once upon a time, and I graduated from theological seminary after 3 years, I guess it was, and got a degree. And when it was all over with, I didn't have a clue what I was supposed to do next. All right. And I really wanted to know what God wanted me to do. So I sort of said, all right, Lord, what do you have for me? And I waited, and the word came that there was a church right near the Bar Bazaar, which is the place where all those good-looking young girls live in New York. And I could be pastor of that church. And that didn't seem to be what God had for me, so I passed on that. And then they said, well, you could be the assistant to the Presbyterian minister who has the first Presbyterian church in Schenectady, New York. And I prayed about that, and being an old-time Baptist, I couldn't go with all that covenant theology stuff. And not that I've got anything against Presbyterians, I think they're great, but I just didn't want to be one. So I had to pass on that opportunity. And what do I do next? Well, my wife had to go join her parents out in Columbus, Ohio. We had some children, and so she took a couple of our children. I think we had two then. And she went out to Columbus, Ohio, and I then spent time seeking the Lord. I mean, it was kind of like I was all by myself in an apartment in New York saying, God, what's next? Yeah? How many of you said that to the Lord? How many of you know exactly where you're going now? We can relate to each other. But I was crying out to the Lord, Lord, what do I do? And I waited like for 30 days reading the Bible and praying. And the only thing that came to me was Luke 12:33, which says, sell what you have, give the money to the poor, and come follow me. And the only thing the Lord said is basically get yourself ready to move and get light and get set to go. So I wrote my wife. I said, God is dealing with me out of Luke 12:33. Well, my wife didn't bother to look it up. If your husband ever tells you that he's got a scripture verse, you better look it up. So, a little while later, I put an ad in the paper, early American furniture for sale, and I cleaned out our apartment. I sold everything there. The only thing I kept was a few cribs, baby beds, and all that stuff, and some pots and pans. Everything else was gone. And then I moved from the apartment where we had been living in Queens and went to Bedford-Stuyvesant in Brooklyn, New York, which was a noted slum. And I moved into an interracial commune in a somebody said I was into communes before communes were cool. And it was something else. We were right next door to a house of ill fame. They didn't use those terms to describe it, but that's not made nice. And the madam had been demon-possessed, and this guy that was at the Presbyterian house where we were staying, he cast a demon out of this woman, and she thought it was snakes coming out of her throat. And so she was over there in the house. There was this big old guy from Jamaica who was nutty as a fruitcake, and he was in the next door room. And then there was this protege of Jerome Hines who, was spastic. And it's nothing wrong with being spastic, except he had a spastic girlfriend, and he got her pregnant, and that wasn't cool either. So, that was where we lived. So I got a telephone call from my wife, and she said, "Why are you taking the telephone call? It's been transferred from Queens to Brooklyn. What's happening?" And I said, "Well, dear, I sold our furniture, and I moved over here into this parsonage." And she said, "You what?" I said, "Well, I